Well, hey everybody, I'm the Crockett Cooner, and this is the Crockett Coonhound Show, and you've made it to Fireside Chats. I believe it is August the 19th, 2024, and today, guys, for everybody that follows us, I'm out here, got my coffee as always, and we're going to talk a little controversial issues when it comes to, outdoors, hunting and fishing and things. So, guys, it seems that, we have a ton of folks that their idea of hunting may not be a very traditional idea of hunting. Well, what does that mean, really? Let's unpack it a little bit. So, for those of you that are old enough, and some folks still do, the days of carrying Grandpa's old shotgun and hunting there on a farm, somebody those days are kind of over with for some folks. If you haven't noticed, it's, better firearms. It is, in fact, spending large amounts of money and things in order to be able to go out and have this really good experience. Now, personally, hence our name, the Crockett Coonhound Show, guys. I was a coon hunter for years, and that is just a truly old-timey, traditional type of hunting. And along with it, we have, in fact, throughout the years, had organized events and things throughout the U.S. and Canada, some in Mexico, I believe. And people go out and they hunt. And they do, in fact, have a good time, and they get to hunt with other people and talk about breeding, hunting dogs, and those types of things. But I'm talking more about, things like deer hunting, those types of things. There's tons of folks here where I'm located in Middle Tennessee. They still go out, they hunt and things, but, there's a lot of rules and regulations on that now. And also, we have a ton of folks that their occupation may be that they farm, and then they farm a piece of property for someone. Well, of course, with that, they may get the hunting rights. And, that adds a whole different metric, guys, when we start talking about hunting. Because, for a lot of folks, it's a very traditional, Dad took me, we use the old wooden stock rifle or shotgun and those types of things. And for folks that follow firearms, now, you may not be aware, but I've heard a little deal about, Glock, for instance, like handguns. Are they still as important as they were? There for a while, we went through a thing where everybody said, well, Glock is the way to go. And come to find out, it may not be. There's other people in a different camp. They believe that different firearms are better. I mean, myself personally, guys, and I still do, have the old rifles and things, some of the old shotguns, but I do have some of the new versions. I mean, as we see through time, guys, you can buy a very traditional wooden stock type of shotgun and rifle. It'll still serve the purpose and things. But, does it hold up as good against the elements as a weapon that has a synthetic stock? Also like scopes, things like that. For any of you folks that stay on top of these issues, I mean, there's some pretty nice ones. Well, you went through the entire process, for folks like myself, guys, I'm middle-aged, as a young person, going with my father, that type of thing, doing a little hunting. After we got done, for instance, would field dress the deer, then come home and continue on with the processing part of it. Well, for a ton of folks that have paid, say, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, whatever amount of money it is to go on this trip and do hunting of any type while they're there, that's kind of sometimes part of the package. And, it's a pretty fancy thing, guys. I mean, when you can go out, you can hunt, and then all of the dirty work is basically done by the guys that run the hunting camp where you're at. and it makes it very appealing to folks. But that's just it. It's kind of a controversial issue. I mean, there's a ton of folks that says, I wouldn't be caught dead in the woods with an old type of rifle, or an old single shot or something. The way to go is the new types of sporting rifles and shotguns and things. And then also when it comes to things like fishing, I mean, it's the same thing. You can in fact get a big guided trip. These guides can ensure your safety while you're there. They can put you right on the fish. But what does that mean for programs and things like what we have here in Tennessee? We have lots of programs. They make money through hunting licenses and those types of things. They keep up like the boat docks at different lakes and rivers and streams and things, and they will in fact stock fish. But when you have the folks that are not able to pay, say $5,000 to go on a guided fishing trip, well, the next thing that they do is they go to their honey hole, and it just so happens that game and fish stock there. Well, do they follow the rules still? I mean, the creel limits and things, if they, for instance, we do a lot of trout here, and myself and Scooter are both fly fishermen. I can honestly say he's the fellow that taught it to me years and years ago. But we noticed throughout the time that when game and fish in our area would stock with trout, well, buddy, people that just didn't fish all of a sudden just show up out of the woodworks, and there went all of the stocked fish. And if you know anything about that, that when they've been at a hatchery like that, when they first put them in a lake or a stream, usually it's a lot easier to catch them. Which, I mean, still the folks are going through the process, but it's not like a fish that has in fact was naturally born in the stream or the lake, or it has lived there for a couple of years and somewhat reverted to its wild roots and spread out. So you actually have to fish and things. I mean, you guys know that you've seen me. We are in fact still working on the aluminum boat to find out if we can do a little fishing in here at the Crockett Coonhound, and if it can hold up to fishing with me. Might even get into some crappie fishing this year. Do follow a gentleman by the name, goes by BFE Baits. Now he does injected molded types of all different types of things, like crappie jigs, like the tails, all the way down to creature baits, bigger things for like bass. He's doing pretty well. So definitely going to urge you guys to go over there and check him out. You can find him here on YouTube. You can find him on Facebook, and you can find him on TikTok. He does a live and will show you where he is making the baits and things. But for just the normal people that want to throw a rod in the car and go fishing, well, guys, that seems to be what it's all about, right? And for people that have children, but somewhere along the lines, I mean, myself too, there's nothing worse than going fishing and not catching a fish that day. But then again, that's part of it, guys. That's the hunt, so to speak. You might go deer hunting 20 times, never even see a deer. There's a lot of folks hunted for years before they actually took their first deer. And, that was kind of part of it. But I mean, for instance, like with fishing, now we have these really nice depth finders and fish finders and things. I mean, it can almost tell you the species. It's not just some little, looks like a calculator outline that much anymore. It's some really nice high-tech equipment, and it almost ensures that when you're fishing that the species you're after is right there. So I mean, that's the deal. Everybody would like to come home saying that they were profitable, they were victorious, they caught the fish. But I mean, what does that mean to the fishing population? The population of fish, what does that mean for the people who, are not to the level of $5,000, $10,000 guided trips? To the guys that just are fishing locally and things, but then you have some gentlemen there that have really gone all out with fishing. Same, with hunting. A lot of duck hunters, Even here in my area, I've talked with a lot of folks. I'm like, guys, you gonna do a little duck hunting? Well, of course they are. And what are you doing? Just some local streams, ponds, lakes, and things? No, 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 no. And they're always going to travel to Arkansas, go on a big trip. The cabin and all of that. No, no longer are they walking in there. No, they're driving the mule or something, or some type of an ATV to get back there. So, it's a very controversial issue, guys. I mean, the people that are in the traditional old school camp of hunting, they still use a wooden stock rifle and an older type of scope, or maybe plain sights, and then the guy sitting right next to them does in fact have like a really nice synthetic rifle. All the bullets and everything, the centricity of the shells is just perfect because he's reloaded, has all the reloading equipment, using like Hortaday powder, just whatever he wants to make sure that he's spot on. So, I mean, also, guys, another issue with this is even here, for instance, like at YouTube. Well, for tons of us, it's a traditional thing to hunt and fish. It's a family outing. Weaponry is almost like a heritage thing. It's passed down. But there's folks that are not in that camp. Then that doesn't mean that they're just all against it. It means that you'll hear them make statements like, well, that was my grandfather's shotgun. Yeah, I keep it back there, but we don't use it anymore. I've bought this new shotgun. It's better. It doesn't jam. So it's a pretty interesting subject, guys. And I personally have been following that for quite some time. I'm interested in finding out how that's going to play out, how it's going to work out and stuff. Now, I am in more of the traditional camp, guys. But then again, I'm also the type of man that would do an African safari. If I did have the money, I am the type of fellow that would do that, which I wish I did, but I don't. But it's interesting, I believe, to see how it's going to work. I mean, hunting and fishing license, not just here where I'm located in the state of Tennessee, but in many other parts of the world, people are talking about, well, how expensive they are. And then if you do, in fact, go deer hunting, well, what's the chances that a deer might have something like chronic waste? Or it might, in fact, have some kind of a disease from, say, tick bite, or, something it's ingested. These are things to think about. I mean, it might look perfectly healthy, and then you eat it and you're sick. Who knows? And, that's something I myself, guys, would like to find out more about. The study on, for instance, the population of deer in a particular state, were they healthier, say, in 1980 than they are now? Or has it always been about the same and we just didn't recognize it years ago? So, guys, I personally believe that not that it is changing, but it already has changed, that the face of hunting and fishing in the outdoors in that way is different. I mean, I don't know if there's really that many folks anymore that would like to go out and have nothing between them but just kind of a canvas wall of a tent, and then get up and rough it, an entire month of basically not taking a bath, and when you do, it's just jumping in a creek for a second because it's so cold, sleeping on the ground and that type of thing. I don't know. I don't think there's as many people that view the hunting and fishing in that fashion anymore. I mean, let's face it, you get done being out there from daylight to dark, well, they go back to a really nice cabin where there's a log fire, and they may even just have generators, but yet there's a refrigerator and a microwave and all of this. That's not so much the the pioneering spirit where you're out there actually cooking on the open fire. And if you followed me for any time, that there is a bit of an art to that. It's really simple to burn dinner up. Spend all that time maybe doing a little hunting, and then prepare it that night, and oops, it got a little too hot there in the cast iron. So, that's another subject. I was talking with Scooter about it this morning, guys. Things that go along with it that you might not even think of, not just rifles, shotguns, those types of things, but how about cast iron? Now you can go up to some of the local box stores and buy a decently cheap cast iron skillet, or you can go buy a really good quality one that'll last many a fire, and you don't even really have to refurbish it. Just give it a dose of oil and clean it, and it's good to go. But we're talking upwards of $300 for a skillet. Now let that kind of sink in. $300 for a frying pan. I mean, it's just the day and time in which we live, guys. But I mean, what does that do to the little man, to the guy that's sitting there in an office, seeing this particular video maybe tonight when you got home from work, and all you're waiting on is Saturday to do a little hunting and fishing, and you'd love to go, but you can't afford the license, or you can't afford a good enough rifle because the older one broke. You go up to look at it, even a cheap one, $200 or $300, you just can't pay it. So, I think it's interesting. I do. I believe it's an interesting thing to think about and research and kind of see how it's going to go, guys. I mean, in one way, it's much better than what it was 25, 30, 40 years ago. There are actual wildlife in certain areas where there used to not be. I've spoken with a lot of old timers while I was coon hunting, especially here in Tennessee, and they're like, deer, I remember a time when there wasn't any deer. They remembered a time when there wasn't any raccoons for their hunting dogs. They actually just were coyote hunters, fox hunters, those types of things. And, that's another one right there. It seems that we live in a time where if something's going to be taken in the woods, either as food or a trophy, well, then it better be something worth ingesting and eating. But what about other animals like coyotes? I bet there'll be some, I was speaking with Scooter this morning. He said, I bet there's some the size of horses now. Just huge coyotes. Because in our particular area, not near as many people do that. I mean, the cost of feeding all the coyote dogs and things, much more expensive. And then you see people trying to make their own dog foods, or, we're just going to feed them table scraps, or they cut down on the number in their pack of coyote hounds. So it's very interesting to see, guys, how it's changing and things. And, if you were not aware or had not really noticed that it was changing, you'd seen it, but you hadn't given it much thought. I just kind of wanted to urge everybody that sees my video here, or you guys that follow me, to go check that out. Kind of see which camp you're in. Are you at the lower camp, the old school, I went out with Grandpa hunting, or are you trying to move more toward the new camp of hunting? Or are you gonna be the guy that's like, well, I'll tell you what, I only hunted one time this year, but it cost me, X amount of money, and I traveled 5,000 miles to do it, but buddy, when I came home, I had something. And for a lot of folks, they know that even on a guided trip, it doesn't necessarily guarantee, in some conditions, you're going to get something, even fishing. So, but anyways, guys, that's about it for tonight. I'm going to get back here and edit this video and things so you guys get to see it, and we can sit here at Fireside Chats and talk. But remember, guys, I say it all the time. Stay safe on the water, stay safe in the woods, and definitely stay tuned here at the Crockett Coonhound Show, because I'm going to have you guys some more Fireside Chats, and we're going to talk about some different issues on things with the outdoors and things involving it as it goes on. You guys have a great day.